Gentlemen, 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 gentlemen. Like girls who dance and I found us a place. Okay, what's up everybody? I'm back and I'm about to do something special for super elite model Gina Stewart. Yes, this is a celebrity video right here. So, are you ready or what? Let's go. Okay, Gina Stewart is a Virgo. In case you did not know that, now you do. So first I want to talk about the traits and the characteristics of Scorpio, the sign of Scorpio. I have my paper here too. Like I got paper instead of my iPad. That's a whole nother video, right? But it feels good to feel something. Scorpio is the sign of mystery and intensity. It's also the sign of psychiatry, legacy, magic, coroners, sewers, reptiles, recycling, restrooms, toilets, undertakers, death, detectives, espionage, hernia, butchers, and money. The sun is inside of Scorpio, but for Gina, it's inside of her third house. So let's talk about the characteristics of the third house. You may have heard me say that it's about communication, it's about learning, right? That's probably the two most primary things, and then you got community as well. So that'll be like the three primary things. But there are a lot of things that go with the third house. Some of them are errands, all types of communication, ranging from mail to blogs to emails to publishing, some types of publishing, writing, study habits, the thinking process, the thought process, right? Because it's ruled by Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury, right? Weekend trips, skating, bicycling, skateboarding, contracts, written contracts. Did I say? No, neighbors, community, relative, right? Siblings and relatives as well. So the focus, right? Because the sun means focus. The concentration for Gina is going to be in this house, in this assortment of things, right? The sun, we have to name these characteristics as well. It's about fun. It's about self-expression. It's about leisure time. It's about children. It's about creativity, any creative projects or entrepreneurship. It's also about investments, your ego investment, self-identity, right? So this comes along with gambling and any types of speculative matters that is associated with money as well. All right, so we're gonna do a little bit of math now and add those characteristics that I just named about the sun plus Scorpio, which you can call like investigative if you want to do it all around, or research, stuff like that, plus the third house. Okay, so this is the concoction Gina, is going to be focusing on during this time period. There's a few planets inside of Scorpio. There's Mercury there, which deals with communication, which is going to be great for Gina because Mercury rules over the third house. It's a Gemini quality, right? Not only that, Mercury also rules over Virgo. It's the ruling planet of Virgo, and Gina is a Virgo. So the communication level is going to be prominent for her right now. Not only that, it's going to be intensity with the combination of the sun being inside of the sign of Scorpio. All right, so that intensity is going to peak. It's going to also be inquisitive. She'll be asking more questions than she probably usually does. It's going to be in her element to do so. And that inquisitiveness comes from the sign of Scorpio being investigative and investigating things that are relative to the third house, all right? It's really all about the third house. How can these things transpire in mails, blogs, emails, publishing, you know, all these types of forms of communication? Gina is going to make these things happen. Now, I'm telling you flat out from a constructivism aspect that she's already has done it. Like she's already, for example, Gina's already like posted a pic. Her boobs made like Daily Mail inside of Snapchat instantly. I'm talking about instantly. It made the mail press. So this is an exact form of how strong she actually is at this time. For everyone, the Mercury and Mars aspect exists, which is a square, and a square means an obstacle. A square is not the end of the world. It just means that something is in the way, sort of, that needs addressing in order for there to be new knowledge found from it. This can be beneficial. Squares are not just always terrible, and it can also show you treasures that are relative to the places that these planets are placed in. So for Gina, for example, Mercury is inside of the sign of Scorpio, and Mars is inside of the sign of Aquarius. Now, Aquarius is a sign of networks, organizations, how you address organizations, rebellion. It's also the sign of astrology. It's also the sign of technology. It's also the sign of radio, television. So again, another example that I can tell you, if you look on the website right now, if you look on my homepage, you'll see numerous articles all over the world spanning that deal with what she does. She's also speaking on other things in this and the third. So the communication is like widespread. The message that she is saying is pervading rather quickly. Supersonic is the word that I can use for that, right? So what type of square or what type of obstacle may be here? This is what Gina may be facing. Okay, because Mars is there, right, which is a singular energy. Mars is in the sign of a sign that deals with other people. Okay, so Mars is not that comfortable inside of this house, or this sign rather, naturally, because Mars is inside of the 6th house. This is Gina's 6th house. She sees this as work ethic, because Aquarius is her 6th house, which deals with work environment and health. But see, this is the thing. Gina might want to actually be physically present with the networks or the people that she works with. All right, and because Aquarius is more of an Aries sign that deals with communication in the way that I said, astrology, technology, the internet and stuff like that, right? The radio, television. Then these days in these modern times, all it takes is a click of a button on a phone or a PC, and then the next thing you know, that's how you get to talk and communicate with people, the same way that I'm communicating with you right now. So the key or the solution here for Gina is to find out or analyze how the characteristics associated with Aquarius that I mentioned and Mars, the self being there, and Mars also deals with desires. How can these communications that are happening inside of her 3rd house, which Mercury is there, which is stronger for her probably than it is for most signs, how can these two placements correlate with each other to bring them both what they both desire? Now, Mercury is just going to really focus on the mental processing for her. So while she's being investigative of how things work, dealing with the people that she's working with in the 6th house, these things are what's going to bring her solace in a time that for some may cause confusion. There may be also times where the communication or the conversing may feel like it's a psychological exploit, because you have Venus inside of Scorpio as well, and Venus deals with one or more person, right? You want to interact. So she's going to want to interact with people. However, but sometimes, and everyone else has this placement too, Venus inside of Scorpio. So sometimes people can try to one-up you if they identify any type of power that they have over you, or that they can think that they have over you. And this may spill out in communication, right? So if not careful, you can react to this in a way that is maybe distasteful to yourself rather than it is vulgar to another, right? Because if you misperceive what someone is trying to say, you might lash out incorrectly. Or if you do perceive something that someone is trying to say and they're trying to like put you down or hurt you, then she is capable of feeling that too, and there may be some type of disconnect there, or some type of, you know, discord there, if you will. Now, the best thing to do for this is to prepare for it, like get this information beforehand, like we're talking about right now, right? So it's pretty great. Gina as well, like she may be the one to emphasize her power, her personal power, because Scorpio is all about personal power, right? And try to like overwhelm someone who she interacts with, and then it can like ruin the type of negotiations and networks and associations that she's building inside of the sign of Aquarius, inside of a 6th house at that, meaning the people that she has to work with. So I'll give you another example of constructivism. We had a conversation and it went fabulous. Like the harmony was great. So she definitely is in a great mental space, and she is not the one to hog all of that Venus energy. Another thing that's good for Gina is this square between Mercury and Mars is not going to last long. So October 31st, this square will be over the intensity of the impact that you feel, or maybe like uncomfortability here between communication and your actual body, or where you are physically. Oh, this is one thing I wanted to mention as well. Sometimes Mars being inside of Aquarius is safety. There's safety measures put on there, and the reason is because sometimes when you're in the presence of people, speech can come out prematurely or in the wrong way. And what the technology of the internet does is it allows us, blogs, everything included, it allows us to actually practice what we're going to say. Think about what we're going to say before, we type it first, and then we have a better understanding of how to talk to people and how to address people and build relationships, right? Sometimes you just don't know people and you got to feel them out, right? So sometimes you could be over anxious when you meet people. Sometimes you could be a little shy, a little timid, right? These are all factors that happen, but the internet, thankfully, gives us the opportunity to do that, so we can like filter not only ourselves out, but other people out as well when we're getting to know them. What we should look at now is that both of these signs are fixed. Scorpio and Aquarius are fixed signs. So Gina, this is what you should look out for, right? Especially with Venus, because I want to talk about the things that are most beneficial to you. Whatever interactions you have, remember Venus is a planet of interaction, attraction. So this means with more than one person. Venus also represents earning potential and spending habits. So if you have a goal that you're trying to reach financially, just for leisure and comforts for your sun being inside of the third house, just to be able to communicate better, whatever it is that you're seeking, right? You can utilize these interactions, and depending on how they go, how they make you feel, how they resonate, how they vibrate with you, you can look for these interactions to happen subsequently in the future. Sometimes you're not, going in these places physically. If you can stomach that, if you can make it through that, and it's not a problem for you, then hey, you may have found a niche that suits you well, and these interactions can continue and will behoove you, and it will benefit you in all the ways that Venus can. All right, and this means all of the ways that Venus can. So there's a flip side to that, of course, right? Is the potential thing can happen for interactions or behaviors that you exude that are the opposite of that, right? But again, as I said, the solution to this is to mentally prepare for Mercury and to physically prepare with Mars and face this square head on, address it when it must be addressed, and you'll see the treasures. You'll get glimpses of these treasures, because remember I said it's a fixed energy. These are fixed signs, and both of these, or all of these planets are inside of these fixed signs. So what happens next for Gina? All right, so this is when the goodies really start coming in, because Venus is going to go retrograde. Venus is going to go retrograde, and Venus is going to go retrograde into the sign of Libra. All right, but before I say that, right, I want to say this. Another thing that is going to be beneficial to you is that Saturn and Pluto is inside of the sign of Capricorn, and it is sextile Mercury and it's sextile Sun and Venus. Well, Venus is a little bit pushed back more, but Venus does sextile Saturn. Okay, so what happens here is, what Saturn and Capricorn and Pluto is doing there right now is it's shaking up a lot of energy that is unwarranted. So you see it, Capricorn represents government, organizations, etc., right? So if there's anyone or any presence, any energies present inside of those types of factions for you, Gina, then they will be removed. There would be the process of elimination, and that process of elimination is going to deal with energy a lot. It's going to deal with power, personal power, which you have. So you're in a great space right now. I'm saying to keep it a way that benefits you business-wise, because you got Mars inside of a sixth house, right? So you have to be focused on work and work ethic. So yeah, Venus goes retrograde inside of the sign of Libra. Now, one thing to know about retrograde, Gina, is that it doesn't mean that you're going back in time and everything is going to unravel and unfoil. And don't let people scare you with the whole retrograde hoopla. What it will do, though, is give you glimpses into interactions with people, or same types of scenarios and interactions with different people, perhaps, because Libra is a pioneering sign. Libra is a cardinal sign, okay? So this may be the start of something new for you, these interactions, okay? might be slightly familiar, and if it is, you will get the glimpse into that. For the most part, the retrograde is something that you internalize with. Keyword for retrograde is internalize. So whatever is happening, whatever occurs, whatever flows with the mental process, and you say, oh, that's how that, and that's how that goes, you apply it to yourself. You make it a part of yourself. Now, it does not mean that you will take everything on because Venus is there and it's just like this all fun-loving planet. No, I'm pretty sure you will do without what needs to be dealt without, right? Because you know, Mars is still over there. But what I am telling you is this: ease and luck, because a trine is ease and luck. When two planets are 120 degrees apart from each other, it's ease and luck. So the partnerships and the interactions that you do wish to have, and the lifestyle that you'll be living, the way you feel right now, this can become a new thing. This can start a new thing for you. And with Mars still being inside of a fixed sign of Aquarius, among your networks and your work environment, your health regimen and things of that nature, you can expect for this to also continue. Now, one huge thing to keep in mind is that during the trine between Mars and Venus, Mars will go into the sign of Pisces, meaning that that ease and luck that I was talking about will be relative to the industry, photography, which is glamour, and even sales, okay? And this trine is operable until November 26th. That combination, that equation is Venus inside of Libra, Mars inside of Pisces, Venus being earning potential inside of Libra, which is also your second house, which deals with your personal values, okay? Deals with your personal finances as well. So put these two and two together and you shall see a great combination and outcome for you. Okay, Sagittarius season. Before I get too deep into it, I want to bring up something that I didn't mention during Scorpio season, and that is the opposition between planet Uranus and planet Venus. All right, so what happens here is Venus is like spending habits. Uranus is like erratic. Venus is like investments. Uranus is like not really practical or caring about a return on investment. Also, Venus is like new love, right? Uranus is thrilled about the new love, right? So it could be real spontaneous, but that can also be short-lived, all right? So this opposition is for people who are born with this opposition. It's like the divorce planets, right? Now, the way to counter that is you can keep the relationship, or you can keep this energy alive by continuing to be spontaneous and keep things fresh, because that is what Uranus is responsible for, like being spontaneous or like a sudden move or a sudden change, and Venus is just like the love that is kept alive. Sagittarius season, right? You got the sun inside of your fourth house now. You got Mercury inside of your fourth house as well, and Jupiter is inside of your fourth house. So it's like a slight stellium there, right? Going on in your solar chart. So fourth house deals with your home. Mars is going to be squaring Jupiter at this time. Here's the thing, you're going to be optimistic, you're going to be enthusiastic. At the same time, you might be impractical. You might be overly optimistic. So you might gauge something incorrectly. This square has the potential to not be able to financially cover an expenditure because it wasn't planned. The thing to do here, because Mars is inside of Aquarius, right? And that Aquarius brings forth that Uranus energy, that sudden move, that sudden decision, right? Be careful not to be reckless, all right? Which is also a thing of Jupiter as well, because it's just so optimistic and it just deals with expansion that you could just do it without thought. Like there's no careful thought. It's just, I'm doing it because I feel like doing it. So the key here is to not make impulsive decisions is pretty much what I'm saying. Don't make impulsive, reckless decisions. Make decisions that are carefully attributed to financial resources, to your career and personal gains. And when I say personal gains, I mean personal gains that can extend throughout a lifetime, because Jupiter is about abundance. Jupiter is also about finances to the extreme. Now, with this square between Jupiter and Mars, also do this with matters of the heart, right? You may be so jovial about a romantic situation or whatever the case may be that you overlook the pros and the cons. So the same matters that you take into consideration when you're making decisions, like I said, like practical with financial things and career and things that are going to benefit you in the long run, think the same way when it comes to your love conquests. During Sagittarius season, well, it really began in Scorpio season. This is something else that I left out of Scorpio season. what it transpires into Sagittarius season is that there is a sextile between Saturn inside of your 5th house of Capricorn and Mars inside of your 6th house merging into the 7th house. So it begins in Aquarius and then it merges into Pisces. All right. So what happens here is the opportunity to tighten up your tie a bit. Here presents the opportunity to be a very astute business person. So the things that you're into right now, especially with Mars being inside of your 6th house of work environment, right? With Saturn being inside of Capricorn, it gives you the opportunity to be practical, to show your ambition, to be determined and put your hard work, which is in the 5th house, right? So this is what's kind of great, not kind of, it's great about your position with Saturn inside of the 5th house is because it's a house that you're supposed to have fun in. Your house is a house of fun, right? But it also should be taken seriously, okay? So here you are with this placement and you, this is the entertainment industry is the 5th house as well, right? So here you are in the entertainment industry in some type of fashion, right? And you are being determined, you're using Saturnian energy to be practical, responsible. The decisions that you make here are going to be prominent. And it's pretty much puts you in a position to be a great business candidate under stress and for a high level position in any type of organization that you embark on. However, just keep in mind that 5th house is entertainment industry, 5th house is romance, even with your romantic conquest, right? Keep this in mind as well. Be responsible and use all that Saturn energy as well, with Saturn being there, because the opportunity presents itself, right? So also with children is the 5th house, gambling and speculative matters that have to deal with money. So with Saturn being there, right, it's more of a serious thing, as I said. So you may want to make smart investments as well. And what I just spoke about with Jupiter, the square going on with Jupiter and Mars, it's even more of a better decision for you to be practical about the decisions that you make that can bring you better wealth. Now, sure, it may put a little damper on your fun here and there. However, hey, you know, that's the way it's lined up. So if you activate those energies, you'll see great success, great wealth as well, because Saturn is a great rewarder as well once Saturn sees the hard work ethic that you put in. So it's between November 11th and December 15th that this sextile, this opportunity exists between Saturn and Mars. Also, keep in mind, Mars, the sign that it starts in Aquarius, but it merges into Pisces, all right? So this is the whole glamour thing, right? You know, Pisces deals with Neptune and illusion and stuff like that, right? But you're positioned with an opportunity there. So if you are in any glamorous industry, right? And with Neptune, the ruler of Pisces, being there, it gives you even more of an opportunity to thrive and vie in that type of environment. Now be aware of this, there is a conjunction between Mercury and Jupiter inside of your 4th house. So this will have you mentally processing things of value when it comes to like travel, other cultures, and higher education as well. You'll begin to value these things a lot. You'll also be like on a quest for knowledge. And you'll have these big pictures, right? Maybe glimpses, you can even call them premonitions if you will. And they may be impractical. Right? So the thing here is to weigh the pros and the cons. Do some research because that also aligns with higher education. You can apply those things in your mindset to things that take place at home. Okay, Capricorn season, right? Begins with the Mercury and Jupiter conjunction continuing on through, but it also intensifies as it becomes exact, I believe, as soon as Capricorn season begins. So that's thoughts, Mercury, and optimism, enthusiasm, Jupiter. Now, this is relative to your 4th house, which deals with home, your physical home and domestic life. This also deals with what I didn't mention before is like your waning years or how you look at retirement. So these thoughts will be like more lofty and grandiose. As I mentioned before about Jupiter being in Sagittarius, you know, you may think about higher education. What I did leave out is that it also deals with teaching. So you might even be considering teaching. Now, a square happens between Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces. So that's Jupiter in your 4th house of Sagittarius and Neptune in your 7th house of relationships with Pisces. All right, so do not be disillusioned by what can possibly be relationships and also what can be your potential adversaries. Jupiter, optimism, enthusiasm, it's a strength, can also be a weakness. So the key here is to be moderate. Use moderation here. You don't have to limit your thoughts. What I'm saying is be practical about your thoughts. All right, and you can see and think long term. Think abundance. If you see limits imposed on you when this square occurs, it can just be Jupiter protecting you from whatever type of harms that you cannot see just as of yet. All right, especially with the being in the sign of Pisces that has that veil kind of feel to it. It's very elusive. It's very fleeting almost. It's secretive. It's private. Keep that in mind. Now, the opposition between Uranus and Venus ends, and Venus begins going direct back to the sign of Scorpio. So you'll have investigative matters again, investigative interactions that presents an opportunity with Saturn inside of your 5th house. So that's 3rd house, back to your community, your learning, your mental processing, and your communication levels, and you're interacting in an investigative way about matters in your 5th house, which deals with romance, which deals with children, which deals with creative entrepreneurial pursuits, which deals with gambling, which deals with romance, did I say that already, which deals with speculative matters involving money, your ego investments, things of that nature. So an opportunity is presented here between these two planets. Now, again, Saturn is about hard work, work ethic, ambition, determination, and responsibility. Apply those characteristics to Venus, which is love, harmony, balance, personal values, earning potential, and spending habits, also attractiveness. So apply these two. Venus kind of like lightens up Saturn here, because with Saturn you don't have to be so dry, because Venus comes here and presents an opportunity. Also keep in mind the elements of the 3rd house combined with the 5th house, and you should be able to crack a smile or 3. You can connect that Saturn energy or that opportunity that's presented in your 3rd and 5th house between those planets to opportunity that's presented through a sextile between Saturn and Neptune inside of your 7th house of Pisces. Okay, so although I mentioned Jupiter and Pisces square because of Neptune inside of Pisces, you can utilize the practicality from your 5th house entertainment field and stuff like that in Capricorn and connect that with what's going on in your relationship house and sign of Pisces with Neptune, and you can get more ground beneath you in that way. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like when you're being responsible in that aspect, you have a better chance of combating the square that's occurring inside of Jupiter, between Jupiter, and Neptune simultaneously. Now, at this same time, Mars is leaving from the sextile that was present during season of Sagittarius and with Saturn, and is moving towards Aries. It's moving towards Uranus going retrograde in Aries. So what happens here is it's merging into your 8th house of sex, secrets, a life after marriage, your partner's earning potential, debts, taxes, mortgages, all of that, private information that's supposed to be kept under wraps between you and your partner. So you may take a leadership role when this occurs, and this happens like right after New Year, like January 2nd is when Mars enters Aries, and it's going to be intense. So the Mars taking action with Uranus, sudden action, sudden changes. You may participate in certain behaviors that are not thought out at all, right? So it's kind of like you could be throwing things out at the universe to see what sticks and what doesn't. Now, any careful thought or any thought put towards the actions beforehand can result in luck in those things that you throw out to the universe. But it can be challenging if you are dealing with a partner, because you'll take a leadership role or ambition. Aries doesn't really wait for anything or anyone, and Aries is a sign of leadership. It's a sign of really for Aries, so it's a sign for one, right? And then you got to deal with that being in your 8th house, which is a sign for other people too. Or 8th house is other people's money too. So just apart from your partner's money, it could be money in the form of sales from other people, like buying your stuff or things like that. Now, With Mars being so close to Uranus, you may have a real urge to do things that are rebellious. And so if you can find outlets to, or different outlets, should I say, safer outlets maybe, that you can channel that freedom loving behavior or rebellious behavior, do so. Choose to do so.